Hi, this is Betty. I wanted to talk to you about one of my favorite ways to preserve fruits and vegetables, and that is through dehydration. Since I'm diabetic, I don't do a lot of bottled fruit because it has added sugar to it. And when I dehydrate fruit, I can take it with me in a baggie and keep it in my purse in case I have a low sugar episode. It also stores for longer period, and you can store more per container, and those are some of the pluses that I have. Plus, you have more vitamin retention. I have 3 dehydrators, and my favorite is the Excalibur. That's what I have 3 of those. I used to have the round Garden Master dehydrators, but they use a lot more wattage in drying, and so it uses more electricity. And with the Excalibur, I think their highest wattage is 550, but I'm not certain. It's half of what it was with the Garden Master. Anyway, I prefer not having a timer on mine because if I'm away from home, I can't get here to turn it back on in case I didn't get the fruit all the way dry. I don't want it to turn moldy. But anyway, this tray has peaches on it, and right here is where they have, it's a 9-drawer tray is what I prefer. And these are, I prefer the 9-drawer tray because I do a lot of fruits and vegetables. Now when you're going to dehydrate foods, especially fruits and vegetables, a lot of people think that you need to dry them at a low temperature. I used to think that because I thought you needed to preserve more enzymes, but that's not true. And I've got this book, I don't know if any of you have heard of it, Eating on the Wild Side by Jo Robinson. Anyway, she has done a lot of research. She spent 10 years researching foods and how to preserve them and what are the most nutritious varieties you can buy. It's an excellent book, and I suggest getting it. I've seen it on Amazon. But anyway, in her book, she talks about dehydrating fruit. And right here she says, as the fruit dries, enzymes begin to degrade its beneficial compounds. The longer the fruit takes to dry, the less nutritious it becomes. She explains that when you go to the store and you buy fruits and vegetables, fresh ones, they've already degraded quite a bit because they're picked before they're fully ripe because they have to transport them and they can't have them ripening too soon before they get to the supermarket. And so when a fruit or vegetable isn't allowed to ripen, it loses a lot of it doesn't get its full vitamin content. And when you transport them, the longer they are in transport, the more that they lose in their vitamin content. So that's why she recommends you buy frozen fruits and vegetables, because the fruit is allowed to ripen and then it's flash frozen and dehydrated, or they are just frozen so they can buy them in the supermarket that way. And that way you get the fruit at the highest vitamin retention that you can, opposite of what you get when you buy fresh in the supermarket. Unless you have your own garden, there really is no other way to get them that fresh unless you can get to a farmer's market and they haven't stored them for a while. Anyway, she says here about the temperature, the faster you dry them, the more antioxidants they retain. The standard temperature setting for home-dried fruit is 120 to 130 degrees Fahrenheit. If you raise the temperature to 190 degrees, you will create a more nutritious product. At the higher temperature, you will need to monitor the apricots more closely to prevent them from becoming too dry. And she mentions apricots because that's what I've been reading about. But I did not watch my apricots very well, and I dried them. This dryer only goes up to 165, but I dried them at 155, and my batch burned because I didn't expect them to dry that fast. Anyway, that's the dehydrators that I use. These are frozen peaches, and what I've done is I've lined them up on cookie sheet and I've covered each layer with plastic, and they've frozen individually. This way I can put as many as I want in a fruit smoothie or add it to homemade ice cream, and I don't have to have it in one big massive frozen block. And I highly recommend freezing them individually, and then you can put them in a baggie. This is my frozen apricots, and yeah, they're all individual, so I can add them to smoothies or whatever I happen to be making, and then they're not a solid block like I mentioned. Anyway, that's what I do with a lot of my fruits. Besides dehydrating them, I freeze them. I don't do a lot of canning because it adds more sugar to my diet than I like, and I'm diabetic, so I really am careful with how much added sugar I get. After your fruit has finished dehydrating, you can store them in glass jars. I prefer using the half-gallon size with the wide mouth lid. Makes it easier to get the fruit in and out. And I found the handheld food saver on Amazon years ago. Mine is an older model. You can get newer ones now that are, I don't know how much they cost now, but anyway, mine was $25 a few years ago, and it was one of the very best purchases I've ever made for helping me preserve my fruits and vegetables. But they have two choices. You can buy the wide mouth or you can buy the regular mouth, and like I said, I prefer the wide mouth. You just put this over the top of the jar, and then you put this in there's a small hole right here, and you just put the tip in the hole, and then you press down on this button. I'm not sure how the newer models work it, but anyway, that's what it does. When the light turns green, then you know that it's sealed. It automatically takes all the air out of the bottle and it seals the lid on. So I think that's a fantastic way to store your dehydrated fruits and vegetables. And I've done several through the years. I've got quite a few now to put down in my storage room. But anyway, that's what I do with my food saver, with my handheld one, and I highly recommend you find one and use it. This can stay good for many years. I've had friends tell me that they've opened them up like 5, 6, 7 years later and they are still really good. I do not put the little oxygen packet in there because it makes it powdery dry, and I prefer my fruit just not quite as dry. Anyway, it's a teeny bit chewy, and that's how I like it. Anyway, that's what I do. You started that. Turn that off.
I'll just cut it out eventually. There we go.
Don't need you making goofy faces.
I can't help it. It's the only face I've got. And you made goofy faces at me. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead for a minute.
Oh, it does let me zoom in while it's on.
Quit that.
It lets me zoom right in.
Quit that. You started it.
I didn't start anything.
You're going to waste the battery.
It's okay. We can charge it
not.
again. You ready?
No, just don't say you're ready, and then I'll be ready.
Are you ready, Betty?
Now, with me, I prefer the half-gallon.
I prefer the half-gallon. We shouldn't do this when you're tired. Don't try to hide behind me. That's not fair.
It's your fault.
Right. I married you. That makes it my fault.
You have to start over again. We'll run out of time.
Okay. It's starting over.
Don't start till I'm ready. Go.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
I prefer using the handheld food saver. doomed. I didn't mean to pick it up and hit the button.
I guessed that.
Now I'm gonna cry. I'm laughing so hard.